Anyway, I want to tell about my Panera experience, and because I have a story, and I think you know this story.
I have one in mind.
Is it about El Tornado?
Well, now I don't get to take credit for it, but yes, it's about a tornado and the deep freeze. And well, I won't say anymore.
All right. I started working at Panera, and I was working with our good buddy Luis on the line, who I love.
Yes.
We love Luis.
But he didn't love you.
No, he hated me. I treated him so nice. I'd be like, Luis, I love you. How are you today? Oh, I hate you. Oh, your sister worked harder than you. My sister worked with us, and he loved my sister, and he hated me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he liked you too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I loved him anyway. I was just like, Luis, you and me are pals. Anyway, so this one night we had a sub-in manager. It was not one of our usual managers. She came from another branch and was working with us there. This was like a regular weeknight, so we weren't anticipating being busy. We were just thinking, let's just get through the shift and leave early and clean up the line and all this stuff. And there was some weather, but it was like just windy. And it got really dark all of a sudden, but I wasn't paying attention. I'm going to tell this story from my perspective first because it's chaos, and then I'll explain what happened. So I'm just making a sandwich and filling orders like I usually would. And I start hearing some loud talking that's aggressive, and I'm paying no mind to it until finally I hear a loud clack, clack, and I hear someone yell some profanity and say, "We're leaving," after they just screamed at somebody. And I looked over and I see this guy grab a girl, I assumed was his daughter, and pull her behind him, and they left the building. And he said something about like trying to get us all killed. And then he opened the door, and meanwhile, this person says, "Sir, please don't leave. It's not safe. You have to stay here." And he just left. So I look over, and I'm kind of just like watching this guy leave, thinking maybe I have to go fight a mofo. But then finally, I'm just kind of like looking like this, and I look over to the corner of my eye, and I see a tornado crossing the parking lot like 50 yards away. And I'm just like mesmerized. It was so quiet. I've always heard that tornadoes are loud, but it was just quiet. It was so peaceful and calm. But there's just a tornado going through the lot. I watched it turn a car over on its side, and then it jumped over a Red Robin. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so next thing I know, I'm just watching this. It felt like 5 minutes of me just standing there frozen, watching this tornado just go past. Finally, I feel someone touch my shoulder, and it's the substitute manager, and she's holding her jaw like this and bleeding down her chin. I'm just like, "What the heck happened to you?" And meanwhile, I'm still kind of like eyeing the tornado, like, because it's like right there. And she goes, "Can you please get everybody to the freezer? I'm going to go bandage up." And she's having a hard time talking. I was like, "I don't know what's happening," and I like whistled, like it's like a whistle loud. I said, "Everybody, let's go to the freezer so we're safe just in case." And people are kind of begrudgingly getting up. I unplugged the freezer, and we put everybody in there. And then I went and got everybody's soup. And because I was like, I want to watch this tornado. And Luis just kept working because he was like, "I just want to go home." Like he was just like, That's what he did.
That's funny.
He wasn't even watching the tornado because he did. He was mad at me for not continuing to work.
The tornado was your fault in his mind based on what I know about him.
I suck in his mind. It's like, of course the tornado tonight. Anyway, so I sounded Italian.
Yeah.
Of course the tornado tonight. But then there was this old couple that I had gotten everybody in the freezer, an old couple sitting there right by the window where the tornado was still. It danced around the parking lot. I think it went 3 revolutions back and forth because it went over the Red Robin, it went over the Outback Steakhouse, and it went over both of them. I was like, this is crazy how this is not causing more damage than it was. It wasn't a huge tornado, but that's when I went back and took everybody to the freezer. When I came back, it was back a little bit behind, like in the Home Depot parking lot again. If you know where that is, it was further away, but it was still very visible. It was right there. Old couple sitting there eating broccoli and cheddar soup. I was like, "Hey, I need to take you guys back there." And they're like, "Nah." I was like, "I'm going to get in trouble. My manager asked me to do this." And they were like, "Young man, we've been alive such and such years. If we're going to die, it'd be kind of cool to die this way." And I was like, I'm like 15 and I think it'd be cool to die this way. So can I just sit with you guys? And so I just sat there, and then Luis like yelled at me, and he's like, "You help me out." I was like, "No, there's a tornado. I'm watching it with these old people." And I got him more broccoli soup.
Yeah.
I was like, everything's just in the shitter right now anyway, so I'm just going to watch this. And so we just sat there, and they told me this story about the last time they saw a tornado, and it was like in Oklahoma or something. Anyway, after that, he was mad at me because I didn't help. It took a long time to close because he was doing it by himself, and we sent everybody with baguettes, and they left, and nothing happened. It was just a beautiful thing. It was one of the things I'll never forget in my life is seeing a tornado while I was working at Panera. And Luis hated me. Anyway, so that's the story about Panera for me. True story. Every bit of that. 100% true. I'm smiling, but it's like, that is such a ridiculous story. That happened to me.
Like, I've heard that story a few times, but it's weird to hear it because I just think of it from my perspective. I remember you texting me while I was home watching the weather and looking outside, like, geez, there's a tornado out there. Mm-hmm. And I was telling my family, Zach's at Panera, and the tornado's like right there. Mm-hmm. He's texting me, he's like, they can't leave and he has to work. And I'm like, that sounds like Panera. They'd make you work.
Yeah. I like lose a limb and they're like, so do you have to use a sick day tomorrow?
No, it's just like, you have arms.
You have another one.
No. Yeah. If you have time to lean, you have time to clean. You got one stump leg. And
there's like blood all over the floor.
Yeah, you're leaning because you're incapacitated and the manager comes
like,
over.
Are you going to clean that up? It's like blood.
Yeah. Wash your hands.
My hand is on the ground.
Because you're covered in blood.
Yeah.
And you're like, wash your hands. Mm-hmm. Like, that actually happened. My hands were covered in blood because I cut myself. I'm like, wash your hands. That. I'm like,
give me a minute. Yeah.
No, man. Anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. I also
That's
one
a good
time
story.